Hello and welcome to another lecture of the course Aquaculture. Today we are going to talk about farming of lobsters. In my previous lectures, if you remember, we talked about commercially available marine prawns and lobsters. Today we are going to talk about farming methods of lobsters, farming of lobsters. So, prawn, just like prawn, you can say lobsters are also very popular as seafood. And in fact, I can add that they are not just seafood, they are in fact considered as delicacy among the seafood. Lobsters are being consumed in different parts of the world. They have their own characteristic appearance and they are quite large. Their significance is in a way that they they are being consumed in different forms, maybe as raw, as you can see in preparing the sashimi. Sashimi, you must be knowing that sashimi is a very popular dish where raw meat slices, of the marine aquatic marine organisms are used. And if you add vinegared rice and other things, then that is called as sushi, if I am correct. Then this is a very popular sashimi ingredient. Lobster sashimi, if you get that is considered one of the very important dishes, one of the delicacies in many parts of the world, especially Japan, China, and in US also and Canada. These lobsters, they have got their economic value also. In fact, American lobsters, Homerus americanus, catches along the Atlantic coast of Canada and northeastern United States of America account for the majority of lobster production worldwide. That is something which many of us may not be knowing, that more than 60% of the world's lobster production comes from this comparatively small area. Usually, whenever we have, studied about production of any aquatic organism, marine or freshwater, then we usually, think of Asian countries, especially China. But here you can say more than 60% of the total world's lobster production comes from this comparatively small area, the Atlantic coast of Canada and northeastern USA, which has dominated the lobster production over a long time. That is one of the places where from lobsters are catches in significant quantity. The production of spiny lobster, is far more widely distributed, occurring in many tropical, subtropical, temperate sea worldwide, whereas the majority of American and European lobster catches are relatively concentrated geographically, especially in the case of American lobster, that is concentrated in a very defined region. But these spiny lobsters, the Pannulirus ornatus or other species of spiny lobsters, their distribution is, in many parts of the world, they are more widely distributed compared to American lobster, that is Homerus americanus, as well as Homerus gammarus, that is European lobster. So, distribution wise or habitat wise, the spiny lobsters occupy wider range of habitats and they are distributed in many parts of the world, whereas these two American and European lobsters are concentrated regionally. This is the contribution. Here you can understand the American lobster, European lobster and spiny lobster, major portion is contributed by American lobster, and very small this red portion, very small contribution, relatively small portion contribution is from the European lobster. And after American lobster, the major contribution is from the spiny lobsters. So that is how the lobster production and catches worldwide, they show the trend. They have shown the trend over the years, right? From 2000 to 2020, it is shown here. These are the photographs of these beautiful creatures. The European lobster, Homerus gamerus, American lobster, Homerus americanus, and spiny lobster Penulirus ornatus. Beautiful creatures. They look beautiful, they are quite hardy, and they are very popular worldwide as one of the delicacies of seafood. Lobsters have great market demand and price. As I've told you, they have great demand as delicacies, not only as a seafood, and price, and especially live lobsters are mostly preferred. So when you are catching lobsters or when you are culturing lobsters, whatever the case is, the thing is, if you are able to hold it in live condition and transport it afresh in live condition to the desired place, desired market, then you are going to get very good price. Customers in affluent countries are ready to pay more for fresh seafood, and that's why you get plenty of demand for these live fresh lobsters worldwide, especially in those countries which are high income countries. Lobsters are exported in different forms. Just see live lobsters. If you are able to send live lobsters, great. There is no second opinion about that. That will get more price than any forms. Frozen tails, whole frozen, whole chilled, whole cooked, frozen as lobster meat. So there are different forms depending on the conditions, depending on what kind of resources you are having, depending on in what form you are catching the lobsters, how you are holding them, whether you are having some value addition step or whether you are having some processing step at your disposal. Depending on that, you can export the lobster and its products in different forms in different parts of the world. Due to increasing demand, lobsters of all sizes are caught and marketed, and the resource is under extreme fishing pressure. The problem comes here. If you remember, we talked about that we should diversify the species which are being caught as well as species which are being cultured. Species which are suitable for farming, we need to identify such candidate species other than what are already popular. So the problem with this lobster is that this is farmed or cultivated in limited areas. It's not popular in all the countries. There are certain countries who are contributing a lot in lobster production, but usually they are being caught from the wild. So that is putting the lobster fishery resource under extreme pressure. So we have to take care of this, otherwise the entire fishery may be in a danger for collapse. So, but still we are doing good, and maybe we can avoid any such kind of pressure in the near future. Lobster market, I have taken it from some source on from the internet. The reference is also given on the slide. Here you see that in 2023, the market size value was $7.78 billion US dollars. That is huge contribution from these creatures, lobsters. The total market size value of lobsters only was 7.78 billion US dollars, how much they are contributing to the economy. And by 2032, it is expected to grow to $17.07 billion. So, the growth rate, compound annual growth rate between 23 to 2032, what has been, predicted is 9.13%. That is excellent growth rate in any food production sector. And by region, it is shown that what are the regions which are, playing, playing important roles in the lobster market. North America, Europe, Asia Pacific, Latin America, Middle East, Africa. And then by species, American lobster, spiny lobster, rock lobster, European lobsters. This is the weight range which is given. And then product type, whole lobster, lobster tail, lobster meat, lobster claw, all have their own market value, and how they are distributed in different parts. And these are the name of some of the important market players which is given. The same can be understood by this graph, that in 2019, what we were having, in 2022, we were having $7.2 billion, and how it is increasing by each pass, how it is predicted to increase rather by each passing year. So, that has to be taken into account in order to understand the economic value or importance of this important creature. Spiny lobsters are high value crustacean fishery resource having great demand in the international market, especially as whole live, that is in best demand. Some of the important palineurid species of spiny lobsters are Penulirus homerus, Penulirus ornatus, Penulirus versicolor, Penulirus polyphagus, Penulirus argus, Penulirus cygnus, Penulirus japonicus, Penulirus echinatus. In India, they form bycatch in trawls. These are the important species of Penulirus spiny lobsters. And in India, they form bycatch in trawls along Maharashtra, Gujarat. Penulirus polyphagus is important here. In Northwest and Tamil Nadu, Penulirus homerus and Penulirus ornatus are very important. And in Kerala, Penulirus homerus is very important in the southeast and southwest coast respectively. These are some pictures which I wanted to show you. The first picture here, typical of lobster samples in Aceh district, Jaya district, that is in Indonesia. Here you can see A, this one, this is Penulirus polyphagus. I just wanted to show you that how they look like. Penulirus polyphagus is A, B is Penulirus versicolor, C refers to Penulirus homerus, D refers to Penulirus penicillatus, D, then E Penulirus longipes, and F Penulirus ornatus. So, these are the important species of Penulirus. You will find different species in different regions, so that may not be confusing. Then Penulirus japonicus, very important species in Japan. They are doing great work with this species, and good production has been reported from Japan of Penulirus japonicus. And then we are also having the rock lobster, and the Jesus edwardsi, which is presented here. Although the majority of lobsters is still harvested from the wild, aquaculture is growing in popularity and could help to ease the pressure on wild stocks. That is quite true, because we should not continue to catch these from the wild only, from the natural systems only. The productivity and yield of lobster farms are increasing as a result of research into disease prevention, nutrition and breeding. Of course, if you have to go into the culture practices, then you will have to standardize all the culture protocols that we have talked about earlier, like regarding, you can start right from selecting the appropriate system for culture, whether you are going for traditional system, then preparation of pond and other things, and removing predators or weeds and other things, all these things, and then preparing your pond for live food production, as well as supplementing it from some food. So that kind of food should also be prepared very carefully so that it is nutritionally balanced. Then hatchery programs, hatchery protocols, if you are able to standardize, that is a great contribution towards the success of culture protocols of any species. So that is there. And then diseases, if whether the lobsters are coming under stress and they are developing some kind of disease, that should also be taken care of. Additionally, by enacting policies like minimum size restrictions, safeguarding females that bear eggs, we are talking of wild catch, and limiting fishing seasons, the industry is concentrating on sustainable fishing methods for wild caught lobsters. Still, we are depending a lot on wild caught lobsters of different life stages. We catch lobsters of different life stages. So we will have to adopt the policies, and we will have to implement rather very strictly these policies. So the pressure on the lobster population is eased. Sustainable wild catch methods combined with aquaculture innovations are not only securing supply of lobsters, but also boosting consumer confidence, which is propelling market expansion. So if you are able to meet the market demand and produce these lobsters in good quantity, then of course that will be very lucrative venture. Lobster research in Japan is more than a century old. Here, research into hatchery rearing of palineurid lobsters began in the late 1890s and developed into the 1900s. In New Zealand, successful larval rearing for southern rock lobster Jesus edwardsi was completed in 1990s. In India, Radhakrishnan 1977 reared a group of juvenile Penulirus homerus to sexual maturity and bred them in laboratory. So people are contributing, there is development in aquaculture practices, and these kind of small steps to mature the lobster within the captivity, to get them breed, to acclimate them to survive and accept food what we are giving them, and then grow and mature and spawn. All these steps has to be standardized. Spiny lobsters are good candidate for culture because of high demand and high value, and can be grown in high density, have low dietary protein requirements. Do you understand this? If they have low dietary protein requirement, that means the input cost on feed will be less. It is the protein which is demanding more cost than anything else. The food of fishes, that is the most important input cost, and in the food, the protein component is very demanding cost wise. Good food conversion ratio, they show very good FCR. Disease resistant and in optimal water conditions, can be readily bred and are highly fecund. So all characteristics are in favor of popularizing this beautiful creature for aquaculture. But the greatest hurdle in culturing them is the lengthy larval life, which is amongst the longest for marine invertebrates. And we all know that rearing larvae in the captivity is quite a challenge. Maintaining water quality as per their requirement, providing the optimal conditions, and then providing appropriate food at the appropriate time. That is also a big challenge for larval rearing of these species. Jesus species 12 to 23 months, that is too much. Then P. cygnus 9 to 11 months larval stage. P. ornatus 4 to 7 months. So that is a kind of test of patience of the culturist, that if you love your lobsters, if you love to contribute to the lobster production by culture, then you will have to go through this. You will have to take care of their larvae in a proper manner. P. ornatus is considered the best candidate species for aquaculture, as they have the shortest oceanic larval development phase, as we have seen a relative chart that how P. ornatus requires less time larval rearing. And the fastest post-larval growth rate is also seen in case of P. ornatus, attaining a market size of approximately 1 kilogram within 18 months after settlement. 1 kilogram in just 18 months. So that is a good growth rate with such kind of creatures. In India, P. ornatus of 100 gram reached 1.5 kilogram in 8 months. 1.5 kilograms. That's why these are in much demand, and you get very good flesh quantity also. And getting those the flesh of the lobsters thinly sliced and using them as sashimi is very popular, very popular. That is amazing. That is usually taken with wasabi and fish roe and other things. So that is quite a popular dish and considered as one of the finest dishes in many countries. And 12 to 15 months for P. homerus to reach the marketable size 250 grams. So you can see here, in 8 months, 100 gram P. ornatus reached 1.5 kilogram, and 12 to 15 months P. homerus reached 250 grams. So that way also P. ornatus becomes very important for culture. In the wild, the berried or what we call egg bearing female migrate to the edge of the continental shelf. The eggs hatch into the larval phase known as phylosoma. The larvae are transparent, dorso-ventrally flattened and planktonic. If you do not understand the biology and behavior of different life stages, problems are to come. But if you have an idea, then you can act accordingly. They drift in ocean currents during their prolonged development and may travel hundreds of kilometers, the larvae. They get recruited to the coastal environments by drifting parallel to coastlines with assistance from wind generated shoreward surface currents. So these larvae have challenge to survive and grow and get distributed in different parts. During the day, they may concentrate in the vicinity of chlorophyll maximum layer and migrate to surface water at night, in particular during periods of new moon. They migrate between 30 to 60 meter depth during the daylight. Larval rearing in Japan was in fact the first country to complete the larval cycle of several species of lobsters. So they are putting in so much effort on research and development of these sea creatures or marine species which are very popular for human food. Rearing phylosoma larvae of for Penularis cygnus and Jesus variosi to settlement was achieved by Australia and New Zealand. Then phylosoma larvae of P. japonicus were reared from egg to final stage in 253 days. The hatchery rearing of tropical species P. ornatus has been accomplished in Australia. The species has rapid growth rate from post larvae to market size and has a larval phase of only 5 months, depending on the habitat, depending upon the variety, the conditions. You may get some variation in the duration of the larval life also. Australia, New Zealand, Taiwan and Vietnam harvest purulae for commercial purpose on growing. And technologies to harvest purulae have been developed in these countries. Unlike the American lobsters, Homerus americanus, cannibalism is much less in spiny lobsters and they can be cultured communally. You can culture P. ornatus. They do not show uh, cannibalistic behavior. Uh, you know, I mean, it's not completely absent cannibalistic behavior, but relatively it's much less than Homerus americanus. There are currently no land-based lobster grow-out facilities in India, but I'm pretty sure that people must be taking it up and going for lobster culture. And I think we should come forward, and people should come forward in order to start lobster culture as other countries are doing, and earning a lot of foreign exchange. A small scale experimental grow out of lobsters has been attempted with some level of success in various marine culture systems, including flow through systems, semi-circulation and full circulation systems. So there are different type of systems, advancement in different type of systems that we can use for the purpose. If you have an idea of the biology and behavior of the candidate species, then of course we can come up with standardized culture technologies, and we will be successful. Why not? Ungrowing of Pyrrhulae and post Pyrrhulae. Newly settled Pyrrhulus is a non-feeding stage, and they start feeding after the first mold. They don't feed anything before the first mold. A biomass production of 4.7 kg per square meter was attained in P. ornatus juveniles, stocked at 4.3 kg per square meter and fed on natural and artificial feed, and estimated that production of 1 kg can be achieved in only 18 months. So that's too good in case of lobster growth. So that way it becomes very useful and successful. Early studies in Australia reported 2 years for Pyrrhulae to reach marketable size of 60 millimeter at 25 degrees centigrade. P. Homerus juveniles were reported to take 12 to 15 months to reach marketable size of 250 gram in laboratory. This is how you can compare the growth rate or growth pattern of different species of the lobsters. Then Penulirus polyphagus Pyrrhulae took 2.5 years to reach 200 grams. You can see that how much time it is taking, and why ornatus is very important. Penulirus ornatus has been grown to 300 gram in 10 months. 300 gram in 10 months, and in case of polyphagus 2.5 years to reach only 200 grams. In Taiwan, wild caught animals stocked at 25 gram mean weight reached 330 gram in 16 months in 200 square meter ponds. So that's quite good information that how growth pattern is shown in different parts of the world. Then the life stages of with emphasis on Phylosoma pyrrhulus and Pyrrhulus juvenile transitions. So this is the picture showing different stages, how they look like, and ultimately after pigmentation the juveniles can be seen here. Seed availability. You know that when we have talked about culture of any species, then after pond preparation and selecting the culture systems, the emphasis comes, the first emphasis which comes, the prerequisite to start culture is getting pure seed of the desired species in desired numbers at the desired time. So seed availability is one of the challenges. For the present, capture based culture of spiny lobster is only possible. Collection of wild caught Pyrrhulae and collection techniques have been developed and standardized, and it could become an economically viable approach by refining the techniques further. Studies in Australia and USA show that nearly 95% mortality, my God, of Pyrrhulae occur. An efficient Pyrrhulus collector, sandwich collector is also called, was developed by Fisheries Western Australia and tested its efficiency. Catches of individual collectors set in areas along the Western Australian coast where settlement of Penulirus cygnus is high was an average 100 animals per collector per month. Jeffs and Davis in 2003 uh, estimated that commercial scale collection by Widom collectors is possible at an estimated cost of $0.05 to $0.3 per seed lobster. This estimated cost is dependent upon the number of peruli available at a given time and region, and thus this may vary greatly from one place to the other, from one time to the other. Studies along the Chennai coast show only low settlement of peruli. Collection by collectors developed locally was not economical and therefore not recommended. Not good catches were reported, so that is why it's not recommended. New type of collectors need to be developed and standardized, and sites of collection identified. We need to work more in India. We need to work more on these aspects. If we are unable to right away develop the standardized hatchery technologies or breeding the lobsters in captivity, then we can at least develop the technologies so that we can collect the larvae for further rearing in great numbers, and that becomes economical, the collection process, the procedure. However, commercial fishing using gill nets and trammel nets bring large number of juvenile lobsters as incidental catch, which fetches low price, and this resource can be source for lobster farming if collection, holding and transportation protocols are properly developed and executed. If you are getting them as incidental catch, then make sure that by improvising the methods, the techniques, we can get these lobsters, the different life stages of the lobsters, what you can use for culture safely and in large quantity. Collection and transportation. In India, in spite of minimum legal size for export is notified by the Government of India, undersized lobsters were brought and sold by fishermen and are exported by various means. This is some kind of problem that we usually face in our country, that despite all the regulations and legislations and rules on paper, we usually try to get something more out of the resource, and we do not take care of the resource for the future generation. And that is what is seen here, that we sometimes we kill mature fishes and egg bearing lobsters, egg bearing buried, what we call buried prawns, and mature ripe fishes. So that should not be done. We should take care of this resource so that more are recruited and we can get more of these lobsters in future also. There is no restriction on fishing of undersized lobsters unlike other lobster fishing nations, and therefore fishermen bring these animals to the shore. So these kind of awareness programs, these kind of strict implementation of the legislations, policy decisions must be taken, and it should be implemented very effectively. You can see that despite having huge resource, I have shown you in case of ornamental fish culture also, I have shown you, ornamental fish trade, you can say. I've shown you here also that billions of US dollars trade is going on across the globe, and we having such precious resources, we are blessed with such precious resources. We must lead globally in order to produce these items in our resources, and that can be done with little more efforts and awareness programs and research and development programs, and developing the protocols for the entrepreneurs or farmers. These undersized lobsters are held in small holding tanks in high densities by middlemen until purchased by the exporters. So undersized lobsters, that means they do not fetch you good price, and you are not letting them to breed also. Due to poor water quality in the holding tanks and the stock management, these lobsters become weak and become highly vulnerable to the bacterial disease. Your If you are not providing proper water quality conditions, then they will be under stress, they will be attacked by the pathogens, and ultimately your undersized lobster, which was already not getting good price, is now prone to disease occurrence also, infection also. So that is not a very good thing, not a very good development. The good lobsters in general are unsuitable for farming as they develop Gefchemia, the highly contagious bacterial disease, and die within 2 to 3 days. The lobster traders give little care to the undersized lobsters as they fetch low price, as I was telling you, and become highly stressed during holding and transportation. So they should be avoided. Why you collect them at first place if you are not taking good care of them? A proper collection, holding and transportation protocols need to be developed to use these valuable seed resources for fattening programs. Lobster fattening in indoor grow-out systems. On-growing of juveniles in indoor tanks was developed by CMFRI, the Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute at Cochin, and Tuticorin Fisheries College. Seed lobsters can be procured from fishermen or from lobster suppliers, as we have explained earlier also. Juveniles are more susceptible to adverse environmental conditions. High levels of hemolymph and lactic acid have been observed in holding lobsters. Lobsters under stress are likely to be infected by opportunistic pathogens. In Penulirus homerus, stressed lobsters have reddish exoskeleton compared to greenish color in healthy lobsters. Weak lobsters are further stressed during faulty transportation for long duration. They will come under stress, and then when any organism comes under stress, that it becomes prone to pathogenic attack, and ultimately the health of that organism will be compromised. If the juveniles are healthy, dry packing and transportation is safe. Safe transportation time is 10 hours. So if you are taking proper care, then you can transport them from one place to the other very safely. They are quite hardy if you are taking good care of them, the conditions they need to live. During wet transportation, high levels of ammonia in the tank water, low dissolved oxygen levels and high temperature can lead to mortality. So you will have to take care on these parameters so mortality does not occur. The stocking density and environmental parameters in tank water recommended during transportation are stocking 0.1 kilogram per liter, temperature 20 to 22 degrees centigrade, use synthetic ice bags, here it is written, if needed to control the temperature, dissolved oxygen in ppm, that is milligram per liter, 4 and above, but I told you that keep it 5 and above every time, you will not face any problem. Ammonia less than 1 milligram per liter. The seed lobsters are to be kept under quarantine for 48 hours. That is very important. Healthy lobsters' active movement may be treated with 50 ppm formalin for 1 hour before transferring to grow-out tanks. Giving prophylactic treatment to any fish or any other aquatic organism you are carrying from somewhere else to your farm, you need to give them prophylactic treatment and keep them under quarantine and then transfer to your pond or tank. That is one of the safest measures. For on-growing in indoor systems, circular cement tanks are preferred. However, for economy, serially constructed square tanks of about 9 square meter can also be taken. Either flow-through, stagnant or recirculation system. I have already explained you during my previous lectures that the type of systems you have to select, what type of culture system is appropriate for the candidate species you are going to target. So you can go for that, can be used depending upon the availability of seawater. Sand filtered or seawater pumped from a bore with a salinity of 30 to 38 ppt, pH 7.8 to 8.4 and hardness between 100 to 200 ppm can be used. Central drainage pit connected to the external drainage canal with a pipe and a standpipe outside will remove all waste during flow-through. A flow-through system with self-cleaning facility was developed at Calicut Research Center of CMFRI. In recirculation system, external biological filters are preferred. pH in recirculation system is to be regularly monitored. Juvenile lobsters of less than 100 gram may be stocked at the rate of 1 kilogram per square meter. Shelters may be provided. That is quite good if you provide them. Ambient light inside the culture facility may be maintained at less than 500 lux. Tolerance limits for various water quality parameters for the culturable species of lobsters. Temperature 12 to 31 degrees centigrade, dissolved oxygen minimum 70%, preferably above 80% saturation. But easily what you can very easily monitor is never allow it to go down below 5 ppm. Salinity 30 to 38 ppt, ammonia less than 2 milligram per liter, nitrite less than 5 milligram per liter, nitrate 100 milligram per liter, pH 7.8 to 8.4, and hardness 100 to 200. Food and feeding. Although they accept a wide range of animal food, lobsters prefer shellfish, mussels, and soft clams. They can be fed as a whole also. Trash fish may be chopped into suitable sizes and then they can be fed. Lobsters being nocturnal, food may be supplied at dusk. Mean gross conversion ratios of 5 for mussel, 5.8 for clams, 6.6 for fish, and 4.8 for a mixed diet was obtained in experimental studies on lobster feeding. Better conversion 3.5 to 4 for mussel was obtained during pilot scale farming in Calicut. Growth in captivity. P. homerus, Penularis homerus, weighing 80 gram, attained 330 gram in 12 months. That was quite good on an exclusive diet of mussel. Minimum exportable weight of 200 gram was achieved in 130 days. Growth enhancement can be achieved by eye stalk ablation. We have talked about this while I was discussing Penis monodon culture. Ablated P. homerus gained a weight increase of 3 to 7 times more than the normal. If initial weight is considered as 80 gram, ablated animals of P. homerus can achieve an estimated 749 grams in 1 year. That's great. In P. ornatus, 100 gram lobster attained 1.5 kg in 8 months. Lobster culture in cages. In Philippines, P. ornatus, Penularis ornatus, P. versicolor and P. longipes are cultured in floating cages. Initial size preferred for stocking was 100 to 300 gram, and in 6 to 15 months, harvest weight of 800 to 1300 gram was achieved with 90% survival. Trash fish is the main feed, which was procured at 0.13 to 0.22 US dollars per kg. Live lobsters were sold at US dollars 21 to 31 per kg. In Vietnam, P. ornatus is the most preferred species. Floating cages made of nylon material were fixed at a depth of 10 to 20 meter, and they are doing quite good in culture of these. The size of wooden fixed cages was 20 to 40 square meters. Submerged cages were also used. Seed lobsters of 25 to 30 mm total length were initially stocked at 100 to 200 per submerged cage and grown to 50 grams of size. Those lobsters were then stocked in fixed cages until a harvest weight of 800 to 1000 gram is achieved. Lobsters were fed with chopped trash fish, lizard fish or other fishes or shellfish. Feed conversion ratio was high at around 17 to 30 fresh weight basis. Finfish comprise about 70% of the diet and rest by shellfish. Disease problems were erupted due to increase in number of cages, feeding with trash fish and consequently increase in total nitrogen content in water. Treatment with 100 ppm formalin for 3 to 5 minutes was practiced. Average annual production was 1500 tons. Farm gate price of live lobsters was US dollars 26.75 per kg. The average profit margin was estimated as 50%. Cage culture experiments were conducted by NIOT in Chennai, National Institute of Ocean Technology, at Tuticorin. Stocking density in the fixed cages was at 15 to 20 numbers per square meter. Lobsters were fed with mussels and clams. This is just to show you that how lobster life cycle goes. Female abdomen with eggs, the berried female, you can say, eggs on pleopods, an embryo, newly hatched larva, then different stages of the larva, and ultimately the life cycle goes on like this. Thank you so much.